In a recent survey, 75% of high school students say they've driven a vehicle or have had friends who've driven a vehicle before they were licensed drivers. Now, this may not seem like a very big deal, but to one 14-year-old in Washington State, it's a very big deal. She flipped the SUV she was driving, injuring several of her friends and killing one. She began her freshman year of high school with a conviction for vehicular homicide. Many of us don't like to follow the rules, especially our parents' rules. Some of our parents' rules may seem unfair, or our parents might not understand the whole situation before they make their rules. The only story we have of Jesus as a teenager focuses on a misunderstanding that he had with his parents. Jewish fathers prepared their sons for the day when they would officially enter into Jewish manhood. So they would take them along to religious festivals and celebrations. Even if Jesus went to the Passover every year, it makes sense that he would have been there the year before he turned 13. The Passover was a 7-day event, but the first 2 days were the most important. Many of the travelers left Jerusalem after about the 3rd day. Jesus wasn't left in Jerusalem because of parental neglect. Instead, Jesus and his family traveled with a large group to and from Jerusalem. That group most likely included extended family, aunts, uncles, and cousins, as well as neighbors from Nazareth. The women would usually travel up front with the children, while the older boys and men would walk at the back as they would move from one destination to the next. And most likely, Joseph thought Jesus was with Mary, Mary thought Jesus was with Joseph. They may have assumed he was with another relative. Whatever the case, they knew Jesus wasn't with them. They probably figured it out at the end of the first day when everyone settled down for camp, and more than likely they headed back to find him at first light. Luke stated that Mary and Joseph found Jesus after 3 days. When they finally found him in the temple complex, he was in the presence of the teachers, teaching the teachers. He was answering their questions in ways that shocked and amazed them. Mary and Joseph were astonished when they discovered where Jesus was and what he was doing. They knew that Jesus had been sent as the Messiah who would save his people from their sins. Still, they didn't realize exactly what that meant. God's plan for Jesus was obviously bigger than what Joseph and Mary could imagine. Mary was clearly upset when she found her son. She asked him, "How could you treat us like this?" Now, we all know that most parents would probably respond the same way, praying for their child's safety, and then once they're found, scolding them for running away. Jesus was unfazed. To him, it seemed natural to be in the temple, doing what he was doing, teaching the teachers. He was amazed that she would be concerned about where he was. Mary's statement to Jesus emphasized his relationship with Joseph, his earthly father. Jesus' response to Mary emphasized his relationship with God, our Heavenly Father. Luke didn't want to give the impression that Jesus was a rebellious child. In fact, he demonstrates to us that Jesus followed Joseph and Mary home and was obedient to them. The word that Luke used for obedience clearly demonstrates that it was a continual practice of obedience. Jesus' parents didn't have to force him to be obedient, but he voluntarily obeyed his parents. Luke added a final word about Jesus' life from that time forward. covering about the next 18 years until the time when Jesus' public ministry began. He said Jesus continued to grow in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. He's talking about his intellectual development, his physical growth, and his social development as well. Most of us reach this stage in our life where we begin to question or discount parental authority. We start to think our parents are out of touch with reality and that their rules are outdated. The Bible provides clear instruction regarding our responsibility to obey our parents. In fact, the greatest example we can see of this is seen in Jesus. He submitted to the authority of his parents for the entire time that he lived in their house. Follow the leader is a familiar child's game, but it can be much more rewarding as we grow in our relationship with God and come to understand the plan that he has for our life. Following Jesus' example of obeying his parents will keep us in line and following our leader, our Heavenly Father.